give a kiss on the wrist of the worm-like tips of tentacles expanding in my mind. I'm fine accepting only fresh...
Hello again, guys. Today I'm going to be doing a quick overview of one early age nation, that being early age Lyeh. This is a nation that I quite like, but I tend to quite like a lot of really bad nations, and this is definitely a really bad nation, if not a contender for one of the worst nations in the game. Previously I covered the nation of middle-aged Vachaka, and I said that was also one of the worst nations in the game, but that is a far cry from this one. However, this is still a very cool nation. It's very interesting, and it has a lot of interesting gimmicks, and there are some things you could do that maybe could work out for you to give you a bit of an edge, but you really have to mitigate a lot of the downsides of this nation. But first of all, let's take a look at the nation first. I'm going to open up the nation here. So here's Early Age Lyeh, Time of the Abysians. Now, if you know the Lyeh line of nations, for the middle and late age, this nation is mostly dominated by these kind of squid-like units, the illithids. Here, there are no illithids. It's all these big kind of slimy fish guys, the aboleths. And you can see they have little aboleth units as well as aboleth commanders. And instead of the star children, the kind of half illithid, half human units you get these kind of androdai and androleth, who are kind of half human, half aboleth. So let's talk about this nation. First of all, let's look at the basics of the nation. You have a pretty simple lineup. The lineup's almost the same as middle and late age Lyeh. You have the slave troops. All these guys are slaves, or some of them are mindless troops. These slaves, you have the Atlantean slaves, who are basically the same as middle and late age, except you don't have the heavy armor meteorite guards. You just have these slave guardians who are kind of like medium armor, I guess, with a bone trident. But still, they're okay, They're not too bad. You have these kind of slave mermen, another amphibious unit with a net. And you have two types of those, one with a bit of armor, one without. And then you have these slave tritons, who are the same kind of deal, just a triton. Besides those, you also have the Lobo Guard, which is kind of the bread and butter of every iteration of Lyeh. This is really, really cheap, really, really spammable. They're slaves and they're mindless, so they're cheap to upkeep and they never rout. So that's really great as well. Plus they have 100% Dark Origin, but almost all underwater creatures have that anyways. These are really great. The other mindless unit is the Shambler Thrall. This is a size 3 trampler, so it could be useful for trampling human-sized units, but that's about it. Still, these combined with Lobo Guards, a big mass of both of these, is okay for most battles and expansion. And like I said, they're mindless, so they're just great trap. Mainly the same strategy you would employ for middle-age Lyeh, where you just have your big mages in the back, spamming whatever big spells, and then just hordes and hordes of chaff in front to block whatever's coming towards you while your big guys cast something. For example, Master and Slave is basically almost like the national spell of this nation. Even though this nation only has a couple of national spells, your Mind Lords especially are such big Astral mages that the Astral and Slave is really easy for you to cast with these guys. Okay, so that's the basics of the nation. These are your basic units. You have two Aboleth units. The Gibboleth is just a kind of basic Mind Blaster, and then the Kibbodai is your Sacred Mind Blaster. These are not bad, but as you can see, they're both aquatic. All of these guys are amphibious except for the Tritons, but these guys are both aquatic. So if you want Mind Blasters on land, you're tough luck with these guys. You have to leave them in the water to kind of rot once you're done expanding in the ocean. Let's take a look at the commanders. You have your generic commanders. Generic leader, this guy's a good leader. He's a taskmaster and a slave, so he's low upkeep, but he will keep your slave troops, boost their morale a little bit, which is nice. He does have a magic weapon and some good armor, so maybe you could thug this guy, but I don't really know. Maybe like a really, really light thug with a little bit of gear. Generic scout. These two are your slave priest and slave mage. Slave priest just a generic priest. Slave mage is, again, the bread and butter of all the Lyeh nations. He's really cheap. He's a slave, so his upkeep is really, really low, even though he's not sacred. And he's got decent paths. He's got Astral 1. Astral 1 is always a good path regardless. Even just Astral 1 by itself is nice. He's a little bit pricey, but considering his upkeep is so low, it's definitely worth to spam these guys in basically every single fort you can. He also got some nice randoms. You can get Astral 2, Water 3. You can also get a little bit of Earth or Nature, which are nice for having some cross paths or having some boosters. This guy could probably create the Moonvine Bracelet pretty easily with just a little bit of support and do a lot of other little things, which is nice. And also, bringing these guys to Communion, you can cast some bigger Earth and Nature spells. So these are really great mages. These are what you should be producing basically all the time out of every single fort except your capital. Now let's look at the Aboleth commanders. So you have 3 types of Aboleth commanders. You have the basic Aboleth. This guy's recruit anywhere underwater only. He's got Water 2, Astral 2, and then a random for Water, Earth, Astral Death. These are your basic kind of Aboleth randoms. So he's not bad. He's got 2 life-draining attacks and a Mind Blast. So that's okay. But he's also got a Taskmaster, so he can lead your slaves as well, but he's only got a little bit of leadership. Really, this guy's better for dealing with the Shambler Thralls. Since these guys are slaves, he'll keep them kind of in order. However, besides the fact that he's recruit anywhere, I don't really end up recruiting these guys that much. I tend to prefer the slave mages as a general mage. I might only get these guys as a big army leader, like big magic leader and Taskmaster. So I won't recruit many of these guys. And the fact that they're aquatic only, as all your Aboleth commanders and units are only aquatic, that really limits his viability. And that's what you'll see as we go forward, a big problem with this nation. The fact that all your most useful things, all your most useful units are aquatic only. So you need to do something to get around that. And there are a few ways you can do it, but we'll take a look at those in a minute. The next is the Abodai. This is your sacred leader. You can see that the Aboleth is not sacred, but your Abodai is sacred, so he'll benefit from a bless. He's also got quite good paths, 2 astral, 1 water only, and 1 death. So this is your guaranteed death mage. And getting into death is pretty good as relay. It gives you a lot of variety and helps mitigate some of your weak spots later in the game as well. And you can also possibly get up to 2 death, which is quite nice. You can craft a Skull Staff, cast Streams of Hades, and a lot of other useful things as well. So this is your main guy to break into death, and this is really useful to have. I generally try to recruit a few of these guys just to get the death randoms, mostly. If I can get a couple of death 2s going around, that'll be nice. Beyond that, since this guy is capital only, I only recruit a few of these guys. Mostly what I want my capital to be doing every single turn is recruiting Mind Lords. As many of these guys as I can afford, I want to be getting. I want to be getting these basically as often as I can, because these are really great mages. These are your bedrock of the nation. They are aquatic only, which is, again, a big shame, but they're really good researchers. They have really great paths, 3 water, 3 astral, plus possibility of getting 4 astral, plus death, plus earth, plus water. So these can be your big astral mages. Astral 4, you can easily bump yourself up to casting Master and Slave, only a few Communion Slaves, or some boosters, maybe something like a Crystal Coin, or a few other things. Either way, it's quite easy to get these guys up to casting Master and Slave almost by themselves. I think, what could you do? You could get a Crystal Coin with this guy. He can take a few things in these paths. Definitely Crystal Coin and maybe even a Starshine Cap. I'm not sure if that would fit in the head. Crown or Laurel. I'm not sure if Starshine Cap counts as a crown. But he can definitely hold a Crystal Coin. That can get a Astral 4 Mind Lord up to Astral 5. And I believe it's Astral 8 to cast Master and Slave. Let me take a look. Here's some of the units. Let's look at spells. I'm going to look for Master and Slave. Master and Slave is 8. Yeah, 8 astral. So 4 with the Crystal Coin gets him up to 5. Power of the Spears gets him up to 6. Then, what is the other one? Northern Star gets him up to 7. You can even give him something else. I don't know what else you could take. He can't take a shield. The problem with this guy, too, is he doesn't really... he doesn't have very many slots, so he's a little bit limited in what you can do with him. But you can probably even get him to Astral 8 without any Communion support. Just with boosting and a few gems, he can cast Master and Slave all by himself. So that's always an option, and that's really, really nice late game, having a few of these Mind Lords basically being wandering Master and Slave thugs. drop one of these guys on an enemy army and just steal his army. So this is a really cool thing you can do with Relay, but that also implies you live long enough to actually do it. So yeah, Mine Lords are great. I like to get these guys every single turn in my capital. The more Mine Lords you can get, the better. And like I said, these guys are actually a kind of thug if you think about it. They have good hit points. They have really good paths. They're size 6. They have weak protection, but I don't know. You can maybe do something about that. I don't know what you can really do with these slots. And this is with a mod too. So in vanilla, these guys only have 2 trinket miscellaneous slots. So even harder to do anything with these guys. But maybe you can give them like Brace of Protection, something like that, to boost their protection a little bit. Maybe like a Dancing Shield, something like that, to give these guys a little bit more defensive ability. Yeah, so that's basically your commanders. You also have these Popule Mother and the Popule Grandmother. I don't really use these guys that much. I would probably never recruit the Grandmother. These are Astral 2. Normally in vanilla, these are only Astral 1. And they are Holy 3, so maybe you could recruit one of these guys if you want to, I don't know, have a Holy 3 to boost your Dominion or Preach, or maybe go claim thrones. This guy could be a mobile throne claimer if you get Teleport going. They're Astral 2 here, which means you can boost them up to Teleport here, but in vanilla they're only Astral 1, so you need to boost them quite a bit to even use Teleport, so it might not be that useful. But still, that's an option. You know, Holy 3, you can do something with these, I guess. They do spawn little tiny aboleths, but these are almost entirely useless because they're aquatic only, and they basically just kind of waste space, waste money for you. Unless you really are fighting a hard battle underwater and you want a lot of just like shitty chaff, you want a lot of these little aboleth guys, I wouldn't really bother with the Grandmothers or anything like that. Let's exit over here. You have the Popule Mothers. These guys are a little bit more worth it just because you don't actually need a fort to recruit them. You can kind of recruit them wherever. In the balance mod I'm using, you can recruit them even without a temple. I believe in vanilla you do need a temple to actually recruit these guys, which kind of takes away some of the versatility, because normally I'm not going to be building unforted temples just randomly. So I do like it that in the Sloop's Comfy Balance mod that you can recruit these guys without a temple. It makes them a little bit more useful because I can put them down wherever I want, get an instant kind of defensive turret, basically. This one can sit in the fort and basically just Mind Blast anybody, which is nice. Get 1/2 Mind Blast, a Life Drain, and then also casting Mind Blast as well. And then this kind of Mind Slime. So this is a good defensive option if you want to defend your underwater forts. This is a little bit more worth it than the Grandmothers. I'd probably never really use the Grandmothers at all. Okay, so that's the basics of the nation. The last thing I'll mention is these kind of half-human, half-aboleth troops, the Androdai and the Androleth. This guy, not much to say about him. He's not really a good fighter, but he's basically your amphibious Mind Blaster. If you want Mind Blasters that can go on land, this is your guy, and that's really all you do with them. You don't really send them to fight. You pack them up in the back and just have them Mind Blast. So these are nice too. These are quite good. And the Androdai are your coastal-only mages. They're amphibian, and they're Astral 1, which is good. They also get a random for all the same paths as your aboleths, so they can get some death and some other things too. They're also a priest, which is nice, so they can self-bless and take advantage of your bless. They are insane, 10% insane, so that's a little bit of a problem. But this guy's main benefit is not these stats. Even an Astral 1 is pretty useful, but the fact that you do have a special national spell as... Let's go to national spells. You do have a special national spell as Relay, Mind Vessel. And this is when you have both the Androleth and the Androdai, right? This is Androdai. Yeah, the Androdai and a Mind Lord, or I guess any other aboleth in the same province, you can kind of share their mind with each other. So the aboleth's paths, all their paths, I believe, except for their water paths, will be transferred to the Androdai. So I'll show how that works in a minute. But this is your kind of main national spell, and this is pretty useful just to get some bigger mages on land, and, you know, just more mages, more big mages in general, with only a pretty minor cost, only 15 gems for this, and you'll be getting a lot of astral gems, so this is pretty easy to cast. The other national spell is Enslave Sea Trolls. This is a Tharm 5 spell. You're going to want to go up Thaumaturgy anyways, and pretty easy to cast. Most of your big Aboleth mages can cast this. And you get 5+ of these kind of big sea trolls with armor and a coral glaive. So these are quite nice as well if you want some beefier chaff. So this is definitely worth it. Beyond that, you don't really have anything else that's that special. You do have the anemone mace. I don't know, I've never really used it. Maybe you can use it for something. It does have a paralyze effect, so maybe that's good as like an anti-thug kind of thing, but I've never really used it. I don't know. It could be worth to try sometime. I've never really tried much. Not much else to say. You don't really have many other national-only things. So let's just take a look at some god designs, and then we'll play a game. So I have 2 gods I thought of for this nation. Let's take a look at a very basic god first. This is the god I was playing in a game. My concept for this god, I picked the Sea Dragon. The Sea Dragon is a good chassis, but he's aquatic only. So basically, once you're finished with your little water area, he's not going to be doing much. However, he can shape change into the Seer of the Deep, who is amphibious, but that Seer of the Deep is not as beefy as the Sea Dragon, so you can't use him really to do anything on land. Still, he'll help you expand very quickly, take over your whole pond very fast, and as a Seer of the Deep, he's quite good as a caster as well. So this is an option you can take advantage of. I like this, and some other options, maybe go with the Earth Snake or the Worm. Basically, Early Age Relay really benefits from having a big monster. Just you don't have very many monsters to choose from, and only 2 of these monsters are actually amphibious: the Worm and the Earth Snake. Sorry, the Worm and the Earth Snake are the only ones that are actually amphibious. So both these could be good as well. I went with the Sea Dragon just because he's quite good underwater, and with a Amulet of the Fish, I can get him on land later as well. And that's another thing to consider when you're making a god. You really want to get some air magic on your god. I'm going to put at least 1 air on him because I need Amulet of the Fish to make this nation work. To get my Mine Lords on land, I need to be pumping out Amulet of the Fish, and that's going to be this guy's job later in the game. Just Amulet of the Fish factory, pumping them out every single turn if you can. What I went for a bless was something like this. Mostly a mage-focused bless, Arcane Finesse, and then I took 2 Arcane Command. And for the water, I just went with Defense Skill and then Cold Resistance. Defense Skill just to make him a little bit, I don't know, defend himself a little bit better, make him a little bit more survivable, hopefully. Beyond that, I took Awake, of course. I went with Drain 3. Now, this seems a little bit questionable because usually people want to take magic for these underwater nations, especially nations like Relay. But, you know, you have such great research as Relay. All your mages are really good researchers. And what I really want to focus on is, well, having the magic resistance helps, definitely. But another thing I'd like to focus on is instead of trying to boost my research really high with having super high magic, I want to use my already good research and use this a little bit of a dump scale so I can take advantage of other things, mainly getting some luck and some growth. Let's get Cold as well. Taking Cold 3 will give me Ice Elementals on land, which is nice. And you can see this gives me a little bit of points extra. I can take a few points here. That's about it. So this is the Bless and build I went for. Just 1 air only. All I need is 1 air, 1 water to craft Amulet of the Fish. I don't really care about an air bless. Getting Big Astral as well will let him cast some Astral Globals and some useful Astral spells later. Plus he's mobile. He can go search around for like Astral Sites and stuff. And the water, just because why not? He already has 2 water. Might as well just give him 4 so he gets the kind of defense bless. Could go with something else. Maybe boost him 1 more and take like Chill Aura. I'd have to put that down, right? Yeah, I'd have to go 4 Dominion. So a little bit touchier. It might be a little bit harder, but maybe you can do that. I don't really know the usefulness of Chill Aura. I guess for thugging, maybe a little bit of kind of fatigue any units to come attack your Mine Lords or even your God. So this could be okay too, but I don't really care about that much. Pretty much the water is kind of a dump thing anyways. I just want a little bit here. But like I said, I'm going to go with Defense Skill and then Cold Resist. And that's totally fine. So I think this is okay. This is one option I went with, and I'll take a look at the god in a minute. The other option I went with was something a little bit different. I actually went with a big Mine Lord. Sorry, the national kind of Mine Lord Pretender, which is only 90 points, so pretty cheap. And I went with something like this. I believe I went with 5 Astral, 6 Death, 5 Nature, and then I think I took a point each of these, or maybe 2 points of that. And yeah, I think it was something like this. I think this was the build I went with. Something very similar to this. And the reason I went with this one is it allows me to take Reforming Flesh and then Recuperation. So this is actually more of a Tartarian Bless. Recuperation will let me heal any Tartarians I summon if I give them a shot of the Battle Saint. And Reforming Flesh lets them heal consistently, so they'll be able to regenerate, which is really, really good. So this is more of a long-term option if you are willing to take a risk as this nation, and this is a big risk as Early Age Relay because you are very vulnerable on land and in the water. You have a hard time expanding in water, and you have a really, really hard time getting on land at all. So this is a big risk, but if you can pull it off, it could be worth it to start summoning lots and lots of Tartarians. This guy should be able to summon Tartarians basically immediately. You can boost him up to even to 7. So that way he doesn't need any boosting to summon Tartarians. And to pay for that, what can you do to pay for that? You might have to cut some of these, maybe take them dormant. Yeah, I think that's what I did to pay for it. I took them dormant. And then I can actually fix some of these scales a little bit. So that's a little bit easier to deal with. So that's a little bit better scales. He has Undying, Reforming Flesh, Recuperation, Arcane Command, and Arcane Finesse. This is just for your mages. And then these are more for the Tartarians. Recuperation is also nice for your mages too. If they get, your Mine Lords get injured or something, if you're trying to thug them, they can recuperate a little bit, which is nice. And also help your god recuperate too. But you know, this guy's not really an expander. If he's dormant, he's not going to be expanding. These blesses are late game only, so they're going to come on super late. You can even take this guy imprisoned if you want to go for a big scales build. You can go for like Magic 3, something like that, you know. So this could also be an option. I might even actually take Sloth and just bump my Dominion score up a bit. Because you kind of want a high Dom score as an underwater nation, and it really maximizes your fortune scales as well. So maybe you could do something like this, take them imprisoned, and wait till the end game to get these. But again, this is a very risky play. You are very vulnerable as Relay, but you know, consider it as an option, because this is another good option if, for example, you're the only water nation in the game, or you're really, really confident with your strategy. I'm not too confident as Relay, so I'm kind of leaning more to the Sea Dragon I mentioned before, and just trying to cope with these things later. Well, let's exit out of here. I can see the pretenders I created. The one who pees in the pool. This is the Sea Dragon I mentioned previously. You can't see all stats here. In dragon form, he loses some of his non-water stats, so his astral and his air magic is missing here, but he does have the same stats I mentioned before. And here's the slipperiest one. And these are the same I mentioned before, the same kind of layout. As you can see right there, I still took Drain, but I probably could take him imprisoned and do that. The reason I went with Dormant is because then he can wake up at least fairly early and start doing something, you know, casting some spells, or even sight searching. To help me sight search a little bit is nice. So take him dormant, or if you really want to wait, you can take him imprisoned and get some really good scales. But you know, whatever you think. I think this is an option, but it's definitely a risky option. All right, so let's move on here. We're going to take a look at a test game I'm playing now, and I'll show you a few things about the nation. So here, I was casting Voice of Tiamat. You can see the good thing about underwater is you have Voice of Tiamat to basically find every single underwater site in a water province. And you can see I found a lot of sites on this one turn. Someone found that too, right? Right. Let's move on here. And what I was going to show this turn, you see my expansion actually expanded really quickly at first. I think by turn 8, I had taken every single underwater province, and then my expansion basically died. I tried to attack some of these islands, and I totally failed. And then I took this little strip here. I'm trying to build forts in a bunch of these areas. But, you know, I want to make a big line of forts and really protect myself, because This is against AI, so AIs are pretty like dim-witted. But against players, they would try to kick you into the water very quickly. So you really want to defend yourself on land and make yourself as secure as possible. You can see I'm making androdai, in this province, and I'm just going to keep making those every turn. I'm going to be making a palisade here and pump that one up, start pumping androdais out here as well. And let's take a look at the national spell I mentioned. So here's an androdai I moved into my capital, and here are all my Mind Lords. So I'm going to cast a spell on this guy. I want him to gain the paths of one of my Mind Lords. So I'm going to have my Mind Lord cast Mind Vessel on this androdai. So next turn, we'll see what happens, but basically he should be able to pass on his paths onto this guy here. And I had this guy doing something too. What was he doing? He was doing knowledge, yes. Right there, okay. So let's leave it at that. We'll see how it goes next turn. You can see the expansion was not bad. Most of the expansion was done by my god. Here's my god here. Here's in his human form. I went with a little bit of different bless for this test game. This one was not that great. I'd probably go for the Astral Water bless, as I showed previously, rather than this one. This was kind of like mediocre, but it was fine. The Sea Dragon is just really powerful anyway, so he's a great expander underwater. And you can see I could just change shape, and now he's the dragon form. This is really, really good underwater chassis. He can really dominate the underwater area, but again, he can't go on land, so too bad for him. Maybe once I get Amulet of the Fish, I can send him on land to cause some trouble, but need to get there first. I can rush construction. Probably shouldn't take me too long to get to construction 4, maybe by next turn. So I'm already year 2, so that's pretty late already, but we'll see how that goes. Either way, let's end the turn and see how the Mind Vessel works. Alright, Mudcast Mind Vessel. Oh, found a lot of sites here. Normally I don't cast the spell, Arcastic Knowledge, but usually on a throne province, you're almost guaranteed to have a lot of sites, so I like to cast it here just to find everything. And you can see I got a lot of sites on this one province. That's really, really nice. So on most places, as I said, I would not use it, but definitely on thrones, it's definitely worth it because you're going to get a lot of sites on pretty much every throne. So like, why not, you know? Okay, so let's see how that went. Let's find this guy. Alright, so you see he gained all of his astral paths. He did not gain the death path, which is a little bit unfortunate. But still, 3 astral on this guy now. That's pretty nice. And now I have a big astral mage. And I can pretty much do this every single turn. However, I believe that you can't link the same Mind Lord up with multiple different androdai. So every androdai needs to have a different aboleth matched to it. So I could do that. I can shuffle these guys in here and keep casting Mind Vessel. Definitely need more Astral Pearl income to really spam this, but it's fairly cheap, so that's also a big benefit of this as well. Oh, I should be recruiting here. Let's not get those. So not much else to really say. How I would expand from here, what I would do from here, I don't really know. I think I would try to focus on summons. I am going to be getting a lot of income soon from gems. You can see my income's not too bad. If I can find a few more sites, I start searching the ocean a little bit more. I can get a few more sites in some areas. I've already searched most of this ocean. I can search these sites too. Like I said, what I would try to do is get to construction 4. Am I already at construction 4? Maybe next turn I will. Then I can start making Amulet of the Fish. I can start sending these Mind Lords on land and relying mostly on the Mind Lords as well as big hordes of these Chaffee units. And that would be mostly my strategy for the mid-game to expand. And then once I get into the later game, I probably try to focus more on bigger spells like Enslave or Master Enslave, and maybe even some summon spells as well. I do have, Conjuration 5 research. That's something you really want to rush as Relay. So I could rely a lot on the Water Elementals. And I do have some other things as well. Not much at the moment that's really useful. I do have Contact Sea Trolls, which is some nice kind of Chaffee unit. So you do have a lot of options, basically. But again, you need to survive the early game. Right here, I don't have any other opponents underwater, so that helps a lot. And you need to find a way to secure your expansion and expand a little bit on land. As Relay, I would probably try to keep off expansion too much in the early mid-game. I don't really want to piss off the land nations. Maybe you could aid some land nations and just basically try to keep them away from you and really, really focus on defense, on whatever land provinces you have. Maybe pick off any little bits you can get, but try not to make waves, you know? Underwater nations, and especially Relay, and especially early age Relay, really need to play the kind of sneaky kind of double dealer if you want to survive. You need to try to be friendly with all your land neighbors. You need to try to secure some overland holdings, preferably in a few different areas. What I would probably should do is get this area, take these little islands, get some holdings over here, spread yourself out a little bit, but don't own too much land. Don't make yourself a really tempting target, and try to secure yourself really defensively as much as possible. Wait till you get to the later game. Once you get your big magic up, once your research is really taken off, once you have a lot of gems stored up, then you can really make your moves. Summon tons of nonsense, whatever kind of bullshit you can summon that. Give Amulet of the Fish to all your big aboleths and send them to flop around a land, cause trouble. And also start summoning Tartarians. If you can get to Conjuration 9, just start pumping out Tartarians and have fun with that, you know? So that would be an option as well. Oh, but I should say that's only if you take something a little bit more conservative, like I mentioned before. If you went with the Bless I did, you're better off doing something else, maybe focusing more on boosting your death magic. Breaking into death could be an option. This guy does he have Streams of Hades yet? I think he needs to research a little bit more to get that. What level do Streams of Hades come in? Here it is, Streams of Hades, level 6, so that's not bad. So if you can get to this, you can get some Death 3 mages, and that could break you pretty nicely into death. You can become a pretty nice death nation. Just get a bunch of death mages up here, get a lot of death summons going, and you can make yourself into a pretty easy detonation, especially if there's not many other detonations in the early game. So that's an option as well. Beyond that, just up to you. You know, early age Relay is a really difficult nation. It's really hard to play, and not many people play it well. I definitely don't play it well. I try my best, but I'm not good at it at all. But you know, I want to try it out. I want to give it a real go, and I think I'd like to try it online again soon. So I think when I have a game coming up, I may try to update that. But I think I'm going to end the video here, and I'll update if there's anything else I talk about with this game, maybe a further online game. But for now, I'm going to see you guys later, so goodbye, guys.